The story of Thor. The Dark World begins with a flashback to a time long before Thor's birth, unveiling the ancient history of the Nine Realms. The film opens with a voiceover from Odin, Thor's father, explaining the origins of the ether, a mysterious and powerful force. Odin recounts the ancient conflict between the Asgardians and the Dark Elves, led by the ruthless Malekith. The Dark Elves, long considered extinct, once sought to use the ether to bring about a period of darkness, wiping out all light in the universe. Their ultimate goal was to transform the Nine Realms into a desolate place, ruled by shadow. At the heart of the conflict was Malekith, a leader whose obsession with the ether led him to wage war on all that stood in his path. He and his followers sought to harness the ether's destructive power to destroy the universe and create a new, eternal Dark Age. The ether itself is a primordial force, older than the universe itself, with the ability to warp space and time, making it an incredibly dangerous weapon. Its power is so great that it threatens not only to reshape reality, but to annihilate everything the Asgardians have fought to protect. Malekith's intention was not only to conquer, but to erase the very nature of light and life, transforming everything into darkness. The Asgardians, under the leadership of Odin's ancestors, fought fiercely to stop Malekith and the Dark Elves from completing their devastating plan. After a long and brutal war, the Asgardians ultimately defeated Malekith and his forces. However, rather than destroy the ether, Odin's ancestors chose to hide it away, securing it in a hidden location so that its dark power would never again be a threat to the Nine Realms. The ether is locked away, and the Dark Elves, presumed to be wiped out, are forgotten by history. This victory, while monumental, foreshadows the ongoing dangers that would come with the ether's existence in the universe. Odin's retelling of this ancient war is not only a reminder of the galaxy's history, but also sets the stage for the emerging threats that will arise in Thor, the Dark World. The ancient battle against the Dark Elves is a key element in understanding the larger stakes of the film. The past holds the key to understanding the present, and the actions of the ancient Asgardians directly influence the events that unfold in Thor's time. The opening sequence also serves as an introduction to the concept of the Nine Realms. Each realm, a unique world with its own inhabitants, cultures, and conflicts, is intricately connected. The Nine Realms are not isolated worlds, they are bound together by the magic and the forces that flow through them. Asgard is a beacon of order and light, while realms like Svartalfheim, home to the Dark Elves, represent chaos and darkness. The Nine Realms themselves are fragile, with the forces of light and darkness constantly at odds. Odin's narration reveals the complexity of the universe, where even the greatest victories can only stave off conflict for so long. Though the Dark Elves were defeated in ancient times, the events of the film suggest that darkness never truly disappears. The ether's power, although hidden for millennia, is not forgotten, and the reemergence of Malekith signals that the balance between light and dark is once again in jeopardy. In this context, the battle of the ancient Asgardians against the Dark Elves serves as a prologue to the larger struggles that will unfold in the story. The opening also introduces the idea of fate and legacy. Odin, as a father and a ruler, passes down the story of this ancient war to his sons, Thor and Loki. This tale not only explains the origins of the ether, but also shapes Thor's understanding of the world. Thor, having grown up in Asgard as the crown prince, has learned about the sacrifices of his ancestors and the responsibilities that come with leadership. The legacy of the Asgardians, their victories and losses, weighs heavily on Thor as he assumes his role as protector of the Nine Realms. He is bound not only by his lineage, but by the lessons that have been passed down to him. The legacy of the war against the Dark Elves becomes Thor's burden to carry as he faces the consequences of a universe still scarred by its past. This backstory also sets the thematic tone for the rest of the film. Thor, the Dark World explores the idea that history is cyclical, and that past actions have lasting consequences. The dark forces that were once defeated are not truly gone. They remain a lurking threat, waiting for the right time to strike again. As the movie progresses, Thor and his allies will come to realize that they must face not only the physical danger posed by Malekith and the Dark Elves, but the emotional and moral consequences of past mistakes and hidden truths. The opening sequence establishes that the stakes of the movie go beyond just defeating a villain. It's about understanding the long-term impact of history and how the past shapes the present. The opening also plays a crucial role in introducing the central conflict of the film. Malekith, awakening from his long slumber, is intent on completing the mission he started thousands of years ago, to wield the power of the Aether and plunge the Nine Realms into eternal darkness. This sets up a race against time, as Thor and his allies must prevent Malekith from succeeding in his devastating plan. The resurgence of the Dark Elves and the Aether brings the ancient conflict to the forefront once more, making it clear that the past is never truly gone. The struggle between light and dark, order and chaos, will continue to shape the fate of the Nine Realms. At the start of Thor, the Dark World, Thor, the god of thunder, is shown at the peak of his strength, continuing his campaign across the Nine Realms to restore order and peace after the events of the Avengers. His efforts are depicted as a series of successful military engagements where Thor fights on behalf of Asgard, maintaining stability among the realms and preventing conflicts from spiraling out of control. This portrayal of Thor as a warrior king gives the audience a sense of the responsibilities he now carries, not just as a prince, but as someone deeply involved in the fate of the Nine Realms. However, despite these victories, Thor's emotional state is far from triumphant. Beneath the surface of the heroic warrior lies a conflicted man, struggling to balance his duties as a protector of the realms with his personal desires and the emotional baggage of his past. Thor's internal conflict is most evident in his strained relationship with his father, Odin. While Thor has embraced his role as a warrior, Odin's expectations of him as a ruler seem to weigh heavily on his conscience. The film subtly presents this as a source of tension, with Thor constantly proving himself in battles but unable to escape the shadow of his father's legacy. Thor's role in bringing peace to the Nine Realms is a significant one, yet it comes at a personal cost. The peace that Thor has helped establish feels fragile. There is a sense that although Thor has won battles and reasserted Asgardian dominance, the realms are still on the precipice of chaos. Thor's victories come at the cost of constant vigilance, and the uneasy peace he has fought for is constantly under threat. The opening of the film establishes the idea that, even in the wake of the Avengers and the apparent defeat of major threats like Loki, the universe is still rife with instability. Thor's role in this context is not one of complete heroism, but rather as a reluctant figure struggling to find his place in a complex and uncertain world. The emotional tension surrounding Thor's sense of duty is compounded by his personal connection to Earth, particularly his romantic relationship with Jane Foster. Although Thor has returned to Asgard, his heart remains tethered to Jane, whom he met during his first visit to Earth in Thor. This relationship provides a contrast to the larger political and cosmic battles Thor is fighting. Jane represents the human world that Thor has grown fond of, yet is forced to leave behind in order to fulfill his obligations as a prince of Asgard. The absence of Jane from his life is something that gnaws at Thor throughout the film, and this emotional conflict contributes to the feeling that Thor is somewhat adrift in his role as protector of the Nine Realms. His longing for Earth, and specifically Jane, makes him seem less like the triumphant hero seen in the opening battles and more like a person with a deep sense of loss. Thor's struggles with his duties and his emotional conflicts are amplified when he is confronted with the return of his brother, Loki. The events of the Avengers have left Loki as a villain in the eyes of Asgard, and Thor's relationship with him remains one of deep mistrust and unresolved emotions. Loki's actions, his betrayal of Asgard, and his role in the destruction of New York have not only caused rifts within their family, but also left Thor questioning the nature of family loyalty. Thor's desire to protect the realms is at odds with his complex feelings toward Loki. Thor is forced to confront the idea that, despite Loki's wrongdoings, he remains his brother. This internal struggle, in which duty clashes with personal emotions, adds to the film's underlying theme of sacrifice and the blurred line between personal desires and the greater good. Thor's sense of duty is further explored when he faces his father, Odin. In the film's early moments, Odin's leadership is framed as one of wisdom, yet his overbearing control of Thor's destiny is evident. Odin's desire to keep Thor in line, to make him worthy of the throne, results in a strained father-son dynamic. Thor, despite being a strong and capable warrior, is never truly free to embrace his own path. The opening sequences illustrate how Thor's victories across the 9 realms are just the beginning of his growth as a future ruler. However, his journey toward kingship is challenged by his understanding that, despite his personal achievements, he cannot escape the expectations of Asgard and its royal lineage. In the early part of Thor, The Dark World, the film also subtly explores Thor's relationship with his people, Asgard itself. While Thor is beloved as a warrior, his return to Asgard is not marked by a sense of triumph. Instead, there's an air of uncertainty about what comes next for Asgard under Odin's rule. The people of Asgard, despite their admiration for Thor, look to Odin for leadership. This dynamic emphasizes Thor's position as the reluctant heir to a kingdom in flux. He understands that his future responsibilities go beyond just military victories. They require wisdom, leadership, and the ability to forge alliances. It's a burden that Thor is beginning to comprehend, but one that comes with a deep emotional cost. As the film progresses, Thor's commitment to peace is tested. The tenuous stability of the 9 realms is soon threatened by the reemergence of the Dark Elves, led by Malekith. This reintroduction of conflict shakes Thor's sense of security, and brings his personal and royal responsibilities into sharper focus. The new threat forces Thor to reckon with the reality that peace is fragile and constantly under siege. The reality of the universe's instability forces Thor to confront his limitations as a warrior and a future king, pushing him to accept that the road to peace is never without sacrifice and loss. Despite his victories in battles, Thor, the Dark World reveals that peace is not easily won, and that even a hero as powerful as Thor is not immune to the consequences of the world he inhabits. Thor is tested not just by his enemies, but by his own internal struggles. His complicated relationship with his family, the conflicting desires for duty and love, and the weight of responsibility that weighs heavily on his shoulders. As the film unfolds, these elements converge, driving Thor to not only fight for the safety of the 9 realms, but to reconcile his internal conflicts in order to fulfill his role as a protector of Asgard, and ultimately as a leader of the 9 realms. At the beginning of Thor, The Dark World, the fate of Loki, Thor's adoptive brother, is a key subplot that underscores the complexities of family, betrayal, and redemption. Following the events of the Avengers, Loki is imprisoned in Asgard for his crimes against Earth and his role in the invasion of New York. This portrayal of Loki, locked away in a dark cell, signals not just his physical confinement, but the emotional imprisonment he faces as well. Despite his villainous actions, Loki remains one of the most compelling characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Thor, The Dark World explores his deep inner conflict, his feelings of betrayal, and his struggle with the reality of his own identity. Loki's imprisonment is a consequence of his actions, but it also serves as a reminder of the fractured bond between him and Thor. In Thor, Loki's jealousy and thirst for power led him to betray his family and attempt to conquer Asgard. This betrayal left a lasting scar on both Thor and the Asgardian royal family, including Odin, who viewed Loki's actions as unforgivable. But as much as Loki is responsible for his own downfall, his complicated past is marked by feelings of rejection, insecurity, and a constant yearning for approval, especially from Odin, who never fully accepted him as a true son. As we enter the dark world, it's clear that Loki has become a figure of both anger and sympathy. He has spent time reflecting on his choices and the consequences of his actions, though he has yet to fully reckon with the depth of his betrayal. His relationship with Thor, which has been defined by rivalry and conflict, is no longer one of simple animosity. Thor, who once viewed Loki as a brother, is now unsure of how to reconcile his feelings. He loves his brother, but the past actions of Loki, his deceit, and the destruction he caused, leave Thor with a deep sense of mistrust. The relationship between the two characters is more nuanced in the dark world, filled with moments of fragile connection, as well as emotional distance. Thor wants to believe in the possibility of redemption for Loki, but he is haunted by the darkness in his brother's heart. Thor's visit to Loki's prison cell in Asgard is one of the more emotionally charged moments in the film. Thor tries to appeal to Loki's better nature, asking for his help in dealing with a new cosmic threat that could endanger the entire universe. Loki's response is not one of immediate loyalty. Instead, he taunts Thor, mocking him for his ideals and his belief in family. Yet, beneath the surface, Loki's vulnerability begins to show through. He is still struggling with the idea of who he is, still reeling from his past actions, and the rejection he faced, particularly from Odin, who raised him but never fully accepted him as a son. Odin's favoritism toward Thor has always been a source of deep pain for Loki. This sense of being overlooked and undervalued drives much of Loki's bitterness and frustration. Loki's motivation is not just about power. He desires recognition and validation, things he has never received from Odin or his family. He constantly feels like an outsider, even in Asgard. His actions throughout the film, though often manipulative, stem from a place of emotional need rather than mere malice. His desire for recognition, whether through conquering kingdoms or testing the limits of his power, comes from his inability to accept his position in the world and his frustration with the roles he's been forced into. Loki, at his core, longs to prove himself, not just to others, but to himself. Despite Loki's deception and the pain he has caused, there is a moment of complexity when Thor and Loki temporarily join forces. Thor's decision to rely on Loki is not made lightly. He is fully aware of the risks involved in trusting someone who has betrayed him in the past. But as Thor faces a new and powerful enemy, Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, he comes to realize that Loki's wit, intelligence, and mastery of manipulation make him a valuable ally, even if it's only for a limited time. Loki's unique skill set and understanding of deception offer Thor a chance to defeat Malekith, even if the road to victory is uncertain. Thor's decision to work with Loki highlights the tension between trust and mistrust, forgiveness and vengeance, and the thin line between heroism and villainy. As the story progresses, Loki's role in the battle against Malekith grows more complicated. While he aids Thor and proves to be a valuable ally in the fight to save the Nine Realms, Loki's true motivations remain unclear. Is he truly trying to change, or is he simply using this opportunity to further his own agenda? Throughout the film, Loki displays a combination of self-serving actions and moments of genuine camaraderie with Thor, hinting at a more layered and complex character than the villain seen in the Avengers. His cunning and resourcefulness are undeniable, and Thor comes to realize that, despite his brother's deceitful nature, Loki is still the only one who can help him in this time of crisis. The tension between Thor and Loki reaches its apex during the final confrontation with Malekith. Loki, once again, chooses to betray Thor, but this time the betrayal comes with a twist. After helping Thor defeat Malekith and seemingly sacrificing himself for the greater good, Loki reveals that he is still alive, having faked his death to take the throne of Asgard for himself. His actions are a reflection of his unrelenting desire for power and control, and his ultimate decision to betray Thor once again is a heartbreaking one for the audience and for Thor. Despite their shared history and the emotional connection they have, Loki's insatiable thirst for power proves to be stronger than his bond with his brother. The film ends with Loki taking the throne of Asgard in Odin's absence, and his fate remains uncertain. Is Loki truly evil, or is he simply a product of his circumstances? Thor: The Dark World leaves this question unanswered, but it also provides a sense of closure for Loki's character arc. He is not simply a villain to be defeated, but a complex figure who struggles with his identity, his past actions, and his place in the universe. While Loki may not fully redeem himself, there is a sense of possibility that his character could evolve and change in future films. At the heart of Thor: The Dark World lies the journey of Jane Foster, Thor's love interest, who becomes deeply entangled in the conflict of the film through her unexpected connection to the ether. Jane, portrayed by Natalie Portman, has always been more than just a love interest in the Thor films. She is an intelligent, determined scientist whose curiosity and drive often lead her into situations far beyond her control. In this installment, her scientific background is vital to the story, as her research uncovers the dangerous force that could potentially bring about the end of the Nine Realms. The ether, an ancient and powerful substance, is central to the plot of Thor: The Dark World. It is a primordial force older than the universe itself, capable of both creation and destruction. This enigmatic force was once wielded by Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, who sought to use the ether to plunge the universe into darkness. After the Asgardians defeated Malekith's forces, the ether was hidden away in a secret location to prevent its dangerous power from falling into the wrong hands. However, as Jane begins to investigate strange cosmic events on Earth, she unknowingly comes into contact with the ether, setting the stage for the chaos that follows. Jane's involvement with the ether is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, her exposure to the force makes her an essential part of the story. Her intellect and curiosity lead her to understand the ether's potential, but she is unaware of the full scope of its power and the danger it brings. Her connection to the ether transforms her from a scientist investigating unusual phenomena into a key player in the cosmic battle that threatens the Nine Realms. When Jane becomes the unintentional host of the ether, the stakes are raised significantly. Not only does she become a target for Malekith and his Dark Elf forces, but she also becomes an unwitting weapon as the ether's power begins to take root inside her. The emotional depth of Jane's character is highlighted as she faces the consequences of this accidental bond with the ether. Her relationship with Thor is tested by her newfound role in the conflict. Throughout the film, Jane is shown as someone who does not shy away from danger. She is a passionate researcher, but her connection to Thor, as well as her understanding of the weight of their shared love, makes her a more vulnerable character in this film. Her fears and struggles are no longer just about scientific discovery, but also about the existential threat posed by the ether and the cosmic forces surrounding her. Thor's reaction to Jane being tied to the ether reveals his deep care for her. Despite the duty he feels toward Asgard and his responsibilities in protecting the Nine Realms, Thor's love for Jane becomes a driving force for him throughout the film. As much as Thor understands the larger cosmic scale of the battle against Malekith, it is Jane's safety and well-being that weigh most heavily on his mind. Thor's decision to leave Asgard and return to Earth in search of her shows the emotional depth of his character. His devotion to Jane is not merely romantic, but is intertwined with a sense of responsibility to protect her. As she is now more than just a scientist, she is the key to stopping Malekith's dark plan. Jane's presence in the story also reinforces the theme of love and sacrifice. As the ether grows stronger within her, Jane faces increasing physical and mental strain. She is caught between two worlds, one of scientific curiosity, where she seeks knowledge, and another of cosmic forces far beyond her understanding. Jaime's struggle to manage the power within her body parallels Thor's own struggle to balance his duties to Asgard and his love for Earth. Her vulnerability makes her an even more compelling character, as she grapples with the realization that the danger she faces is not just theoretical, it's very real, and it could cost her everything, including her life. The relationship between Jaime and Thor is central to the emotional resonance of the film. Throughout their interactions, Jaime's vulnerability and Thor's determination to protect her create an emotional bond that transcends the typical superhero romance narrative. Jaime's arc is not just about being saved, but about making difficult choices for the greater good. She becomes integral to the ultimate battle between Thor and Malekith. Though she is physically weak, Jaime's knowledge and her connection to the Ether make her a crucial ally in the fight against the Dark Elves. Her intellectual abilities and her deep understanding of the cosmic forces at play position her as more than just a damsel in distress. She is a capable and active participant in the unfolding events, contributing to the defeat of Malekith and his plans to destroy the Nine Realms. In a climactic moment, Thor and Jaime's love for one another becomes the final weapon needed to defeat Malekith. Jaime's connection to the Ether, once a source of immense danger, becomes instrumental in bringing about the destruction of Malekith's forces. The film demonstrates that Jaime's role is not merely as a love interest or a passive figure. She is a vital part of the story, someone who, despite the physical dangers and emotional strain, chooses to stand alongside Thor in the fight against cosmic forces. Her character development is rich, as she evolves from an innocent scientist, caught in a world she didn't fully understand, to a woman who embraces her role in a universe far larger than herself. The connection between Jaime and the Ether also introduces a significant moral dilemma for Thor. As much as he loves Jaime, he understands that their bond may require difficult choices. In the final confrontation, he has to reconcile his desire to protect her with the larger need to stop Malekith's destructive plans. Jaime's willingness to sacrifice for the greater good underscores the depth of her character and the strength of her love for Thor. Together, they are able to overcome the destructive forces of the Ether, and their relationship becomes a symbol of how love, sacrifice, and strength are intertwined. Ultimately, Jane Foster's connection to the Ether serves as the catalyst for the entire plot of Thor: the Dark World. Through her, the audience is reminded of the themes of love, sacrifice, and the cost of power. Her role in the story highlights the balance between science and mysticism, the human and the cosmic. Jane's personal journey, from an unwitting host of a destructive force to a central figure in the battle against Malekith, makes her an essential character in the film, and her connection to Thor becomes a symbol of their shared journey through love, loss, and heroism. The Ether is not just an ancient, powerful cosmic force in Thor. The Dark World, it is the catalyst that drives much of the film's conflict. In a story that blends cosmic mythology with personal struggles, the Ether's presence marks a pivotal turning point in the plot. Its mysterious nature and destructive potential make it both a weapon and a symbol of ultimate power. The Ether's power to manipulate and distort reality presents a dangerous challenge for Thor and his allies, leading to a race against time to prevent its power from falling into the hands of the Dark Elves, especially their leader, Malekith. At the heart of the Ether's significance is Jane Foster, who by accident becomes its unwilling host. Jane's encounter with the Ether occurs when she investigates strange anomalies in the fabric of the universe. Through a freak accident, she is drawn to a hidden location where the Ether, once concealed and forgotten, is waiting to be discovered. When Jane comes into contact with the Ether, she unknowingly absorbs its immense power, making her not only a target for Malekith and his army of Dark Elves, but also a crucial player in the fate of the Nine Realms. The Ether, itself, is a primal force, older than the universe, and the last of its kind. It represents an untamable energy that was once used by Malekith and his people to plunge the universe into darkness, extinguishing light from existence. This knowledge fuels Malekith's obsessive desire to reclaim the ether and use its power to bring about the destruction of the Nine Realms, starting with the Asgardian realm. He is relentless in his pursuit, believing that he is the rightful ruler of the universe, and that the ether will allow him to restore his people's former glory, regardless of the cost. His villainous quest is not born out of greed for power alone. Rather, it stems from a deep-seated desire for revenge against the Asgardians, who once defeated his forces. The struggle for the ether becomes more complex as Thor learns of Jane's accidental absorption of its power. As the ether begins to take hold of her, Jane becomes not only an unwilling vessel for the dark force, but also a ticking time bomb. She is physically and mentally affected by the ether, and her connection to it draws the attention of Malekith and his dark elves. Thor, ever the protector, realizes that the only way to stop Malekith is to keep Jane safe, but this task is fraught with peril. Jane's connection to the ether makes her a dangerous liability, and the emotional turmoil Thor faces in trying to save her underscores the gravity of the situation. In addition to the personal stakes surrounding Jane, the cosmic conflict involving the ether is much larger than just their relationship. The Asgardian people, led by Odin, are also aware of the threat the ether poses. As the Dark Elves begin to awaken and attack, the realm of Asgard is thrown into a defensive position. Thor, realizing that he cannot protect Jane alone, begins to seek out an alliance with his brother Loki. Despite Loki's betrayal of Asgard in the previous film, Thor knows that Loki's cunning and intelligence could prove valuable in stopping Malekith's plan. This uneasy alliance is a significant development, showing that Thor is willing to put aside past differences for the greater good. Loki's role in the struggle for the ether is particularly intriguing. At first, Thor's mistrust of Loki runs deep, given their tumultuous history. However, faced with the overwhelming power of the Dark Elves, Thor reluctantly turns to his brother for assistance. Loki, ever the trickster, agrees to help, but it is unclear whether he does so out of genuine loyalty to Thor or out of his own ambition. His true motivations are uncertain, and this ambiguity makes for a compelling dynamic between the two brothers. Thor's willingness to trust Loki, despite their past, highlights his growth as a character, moving beyond personal grievances for the sake of the universe. It also marks the beginning of a fragile reconciliation between them, one that will evolve in future films. As the battle for the ether intensifies, Thor and his allies, including Loki, must race to stop Malekith from using the Force to remake the universe. The climactic battle takes place in the convergence of the Nine Realms, a rare cosmic event that aligns the realms and opens a gateway for the ether's destructive power to spread. Malekith attempts to use the ether to trigger the convergence, sending the Nine Realms into chaos. The Asgardians, including Thor, must fight back against Malekith's forces in a desperate attempt to prevent the complete collapse of the universe. The fate of the Nine Realms hangs in the balance as the heroes struggle to defeat the Dark Elves. The ether's presence in the film highlights the recurring theme of power and its potential for corruption. Both Malekith and Thor understand that the ether is not just a weapon. It is a force that has the ability to change the very fabric of existence. The way in which the characters interact with the ether shows their differing perspectives on power and control. Malekith sees the ether as a means of revenge and domination, while Thor sees it as something to be protected and contained. The stakes become not just a battle for survival, but a battle for the future of the universe itself. In the end, Thor's actions to safeguard the ether from Malekith are not just heroic. They are a testament to his growth as a leader, someone who understands that true power is not about wielding force, but about making sacrifices for the greater good. In a crucial moment, Jane is freed from the ether's grip when Thor uses the power of the realms to defeat Malekith. The film's resolution centers on Thor's ability to make a difficult decision, to stop the ether from consuming Jane, and to destroy the very force that could cause untold destruction. This choice is a turning point for Thor, as it demonstrates his willingness to put the safety of the Nine Realms above his personal desires. In the end, Thor's love for Jane and his duty to Asgard become intertwined, and he proves that he can protect both his home and the woman he loves. The Ether's journey in Thor, the Dark World, is more than just a plot device. It is a catalyst for the character's development. From Jane's accidental absorption of the ether to Thor's growth as a protector and leader, the Force represents the balance between creation and destruction. The struggle for the ether encapsulates the larger themes of sacrifice, responsibility, and the personal costs of heroism, making it a key element in the film's narrative. Thor's return to Earth in Thor, the Dark World, marks a significant emotional and narrative shift in the film. After spending much of the first Thor movie and the Avengers on a journey of self-discovery and heroic duty, Thor's emotional ties to Earth, especially his love for Jane Foster, become a critical driving force in this sequel. Jane, being an unwitting host for the ether, represents more than just a personal connection for Thor. Her safety has become essential to the peace and balance of the Nine Realms. Thor's return to Earth is not just a physical journey but also a symbolic one, as it connects the cosmic with the personal and highlights the sacrifice Thor is willing to make for love and duty. When Jane is inadvertently exposed to the ether, Thor is immediately aware of the danger she is in. Her connection to the powerful force makes her a prime target for Malekith and his Dark Elves, who are relentlessly hunting for the ether to complete their destructive plan. Thor, deeply connected to Jane after their time together in the first Thor film, is forced to leave Asgard and venture to Earth in search of her. His return to Earth signals the importance of his relationship with Jane, but it also emphasizes how much his world has changed since his first visit to the planet. He is no longer the brash and impulsive prince. He is a seasoned warrior, king-in-waiting, and protector of the Nine Realms. This personal quest, however, is a return to a world he thought he had left behind. The moment of Thor's return to Earth is not only a turning point in the plot, but also a pivotal moment for his character development. In The Avengers, Thor was portrayed as a proud Asgardian, deeply loyal to his kingdom and its laws. Yet, as he interacts with Earth again in the Dark World, he finds himself torn between two worlds: his duty to protect Asgard and the Nine Realms, and his love and concern for Jane and the people of Earth. This duality becomes a key theme in the film, as Thor must continuously balance his responsibilities and emotions. His return to Earth represents not just a literal journey to find Jane, but also an emotional return to his humanity, his connection to Earth and the people who helped shape his character. Upon arriving, Thor quickly reconnects with Jane, who is understandably confused and fearful of the danger she now faces. The reunion between the two characters is emotional, highlighting the tension between their previous relationship and the current danger. Thor's love for Jane is clear, and their bond, despite the distance and time between their last meeting, is still strong. However, the ether's influence on Jane complicates their reunion. Jane's connection to the ether has put both her and the entire planet in grave danger, and Thor is acutely aware of the cost his love for her could impose on the rest of the universe. This marks the beginning of the emotional struggle that will define much of the rest of the film. Thor's return to Earth also provides a much-needed light-hearted moment in an otherwise tense and high-stakes story. The interactions between Thor and the people of Earth are a stark contrast to his interactions with the Asgardian royal family. One of the key moments that stand out during Thor's return is his reunion with his old friends, particularly Darcy Lewis and Dr. Erik Selvig. These two characters, who were key allies in the first Thor film, provide comic relief and emotional grounding for Thor during his return to Earth. Darcy, now more confident and witty, adds humor to the intense scenes, while Erik, though mentally disturbed after the events of the Avengers, serves as a reminder of how far Thor has come in his understanding of Earth's people. This return also sees Thor confronting the realities of Jane's life and work. When he first arrives, Jane is in the midst of her research, struggling to make sense of the strange occurrences that have been happening around her. This disconnect between Thor's powerful, cosmic nature and Jane's grounded, scientific approach adds another layer of tension. Thor's understanding of Earth, though evolved from his first visit, still remains limited in many ways. He is, after all, a god from a distant realm. This difference becomes evident as Jane attempts to explain the complex nature of the Aether to him, and Thor's struggle to comprehend the scientific and magical forces at play is both humorous and poignant. It highlights how, despite being a god, Thor is still a foreign entity to the people of Earth, and his relationship with Jane remains an intersection of two very different worlds. Thor's journey on Earth also reinforces his growing maturity. He no longer acts impulsively or arrogantly, as he did in his first film. Instead, he approaches each situation with more caution, particularly when it comes to Jane. He recognizes the danger she faces not only from Malekith but also from the Aether itself, and he is willing to make sacrifices to protect her. Thor's return to Earth marks a significant shift in his character, from a brash warrior to a more thoughtful and emotionally aware hero. This growth allows him to be more empathetic toward the people he encounters, especially Jane and her colleagues. As the stakes continue to rise, Thor's return to Earth takes on even more importance. Malekith's forces are closing in on Jane, and Thor must lead the charge to protect her and prevent the Aether from falling into the wrong hands. The tension between Thor's responsibilities as a prince of Asgard and his desire to protect Jane becomes a central conflict in the film. Thor's willingness to make these tough choices signals his growth as a leader, as he navigates the complexities of love, duty, and sacrifice. Thor's emotional attachment to Jane is not just a personal struggle. It represents the larger theme of heroism in the film. The struggle between personal desires and larger duties is something that all heroes face, and Thor's journey on Earth allows him to come to terms with this tension. Ultimately, his return to Earth sets in motion a series of events that force him to confront not only Malekith, but also his own understanding of what it means to be a hero. It's a return that challenges his previous notions of duty, and it's through this emotional and personal journey that Thor matures and steps fully into his role as a protector of not just Asgard, but of the Nine Realms as a whole. As the stakes rise in Thor, the Dark World, the struggle for the Aether becomes the central conflict driving the narrative forward. With Jane Foster unintentionally becoming the host of this dangerous force, the Aether's power grows exponentially, drawing the attention of both the Asgardians and the Dark Elves. Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, sees Jane as the key to unleashing the destructive potential of the Aether. For Thor, Jane's safety is now paramount, and the race to stop Malekith from obtaining the Aether becomes a battle not only for the Nine Realms, but for the very survival of those Thor loves. When Jane first comes into contact with the Aether, it begins to slowly and methodically consume her. While Thor is initially unaware of the full extent of the Aether's power, he soon realizes that it is not only a dangerous and destructive force, but one that also seeks to corrupt its host. Jane's health begins to deteriorate as the Aether bonds with her, making her a ticking time bomb. It's a terrifying transformation. Jane becomes a vessel for something far beyond human comprehension. For Thor, the challenge is twofold. Not only does he need to stop Malekith from using Jane as a weapon, but he also must find a way to save her from the Aether's grip. In a sense, Jane's connection to the Aether becomes a metaphor for the larger theme of power and responsibility that runs throughout the film. The Aether, much like Thor's own powers, is a force that can either protect or destroy, depending on who wields it and how it is used. Jane, despite being an innocent scientist, is suddenly thrust into a position where she must contend with a power she doesn't understand. Her journey reflects the unforeseen consequences that often come with the pursuit of knowledge and discovery, particularly when that knowledge is connected to forces much larger and more dangerous than anyone could anticipate. As the film progresses, the ether becomes a source of immense tension not only for Thor and Jane, but for the entire Asgardian kingdom. The presence of the ether is a constant reminder of the vulnerability of the Nine Realms. The fragile peace that Asgard has worked so hard to maintain is in jeopardy. Malekith's relentless pursuit of the ether represents a far-reaching existential threat, one that could unravel the fabric of reality itself. The stakes are further raised when it is revealed that the ether is not simply a weapon of mass destruction. It is also an ancient force tied to the very essence of existence. If Malekith succeeds in harnessing its full power, he will be able to reshape the Nine Realms in his own image, plunging them into an eternal darkness. Thor's decision to involve his brother Loki in the conflict is a direct response to the growing threat posed by Malekith. The film is not just about the physical battle between Thor and Malekith. It is also about how the characters must confront their pasts and deal with the consequences of their actions. Loki, despite being imprisoned for his crimes, is once again thrust into the center of the conflict. Thor, knowing that time is of the essence and that Malekith cannot be defeated alone, reluctantly seeks Loki's help. This decision signals a dramatic shift in their relationship, as Thor moves beyond the brotherly rivalry and mistrust that has characterized their previous interactions. Loki's role as an ally forces Thor to confront the darker aspects of his family history and his own feelings toward his brother. While Thor is still deeply suspicious of Loki's motives, he is ultimately left with little choice but to trust him, reflecting the complexity of their bond and the growing sense of urgency in stopping Malekith. Despite Loki's betrayal in the Avengers and his complex relationship with Asgard, he proves to be a valuable ally in the battle against Malekith. He uses his cunning and resourcefulness to manipulate the situation, providing Thor with a strategic advantage. Loki's help, however, comes at a cost. He is a master of deceit and manipulation, and his true intentions remain unclear throughout the film. He assists Thor not out of pure altruism, but because he sees the conflict as an opportunity to further his own ambitions. Loki's manipulative nature creates a constant sense of tension, as Thor never truly knows if he can trust his brother or if Loki is playing his own game. This ambiguity makes their alliance unstable, and it raises questions about whether Loki can ever truly change. The emotional complexity of Loki's character becomes more apparent as the story unfolds. As he aids Thor, Loki demonstrates moments of vulnerability and emotional depth. His complex relationship with his father Odin, who never fully accepted him as a son, is explored further in the film. Loki's actions, his betrayal, his quest for power, and his desire for recognition are all fueled by deep-seated feelings of inadequacy and abandonment. In working with Thor, there is a subtle shift in Loki's character, as he begins to question his role in the universe. Is he destined to remain the villain, or is there a possibility for redemption? His motivations, while still murky, evolve as he finds himself helping his brother against a common enemy. As the final battle approaches, the ether becomes a key part of the larger cosmic struggle. The climax of the film takes place during the convergence, a rare alignment of the Nine Realms. During this event, the realms are temporarily bridged together, allowing the ether to reach its full power. The Dark Elves, under Malekith's leadership, aim to harness the ether's energy and use it to plunge the universe into eternal darkness. The Asgardians, led by Thor, must stop Malekith at all costs, and they prepare for an epic battle that will determine the fate of the Nine Realms. The battle itself is not only physical, but it also involves Thor and Jane's struggle against the ether's influence. In a climactic moment, Jane's connection to the ether allows Thor to use its power to his advantage. Through the convergence, Thor is able to harness the energy of the realms themselves to defeat Malekith, proving that the power of the ether, while dangerous, can also be used for good when controlled by the right hands. Thor's victory is not just about physical strength, it is about understanding the complex nature of power and sacrifice. The ether's destructive potential is harnessed for the greater good, and in doing so, Thor shows his growth as both a hero and a leader. Ultimately, the struggle for the ether encapsulates the themes of Thor, the dark world, the balancing act between destruction and creation, power and responsibility, love and duty. Thor's emotional journey, his bond with Jane, and his reluctant alliance with Loki all serve to deepen the narrative, making it about more than just defeating a villain. It's about understanding the complex and sometimes dangerous nature of the forces at play in the universe, and about how personal relationships and choices can shape the outcome of cosmic events. The ether, as a force that can both create and destroy, is the perfect embodiment of the film's central themes of duality, sacrifice, and growth. One of the most profound themes explored in Thor, the Dark World, is the power of sacrifice, how characters must continually choose between personal desires and greater responsibilities, and the deep costs of heroism. As Thor navigates his journey throughout the film, the necessity of sacrifice is repeatedly highlighted, both in terms of his relationship with Jane Foster and his broader role as a protector of the Nine Realms. From emotional sacrifices to physical ones, this film examines how the path of a hero is paved with difficult choices that often come with profound personal cost. At the heart of the film's exploration of sacrifice is Thor's love for Jane. When Thor discovers that Jane has been unknowingly exposed to the ether, he is faced with a dilemma that goes beyond just protecting her from the Dark Elves. Jane's bond with the ether has begun to affect her health, and her very life is at risk. Despite knowing that the ether is an ancient and incredibly powerful force, Thor's focus shifts primarily to Jane's safety. His love for her runs deep, and her well-being becomes the priority. However, this sets the stage for a profound internal struggle. Thor must balance his desire to protect the woman he loves with the greater responsibility of preventing Malekith from using the ether to bring chaos and destruction to the Nine Realms. Thor's emotional journey in Thor, the Dark World, is marked by the realization that he cannot have everything he desires. The very things he holds dear, Jane, the people of Earth, and the peaceful future of the Nine Realms, are all in jeopardy. The realization that the safety of the universe may require him to sacrifice his personal happiness is a difficult one for Thor. Unlike his previous victories, where his personal desires were largely in alignment with the fate of the world, here, Thor faces the uncomfortable truth that protecting the universe might mean letting go of the one thing that brings him joy. This theme of emotional sacrifice, particularly in his relationship with Jane, forms the emotional backbone of the film. Thor's decision to leave Jane behind when he returns to Asgard is a key moment of sacrifice. He is fully aware that their relationship has become more complicated now that Jane is connected to the ether. In the face of Malekith's increasingly destructive plans, Thor is forced to make the hard decision to prioritize his duty as a protector over his love for Jane. While he is deeply committed to her, the needs of the Nine Realms outweigh his personal desires. This moment highlights the inner conflict that Thor must reconcile as a leader and a hero. For someone who has always been driven by his emotions and personal connections, the choice to prioritize the protection of the universe is a significant moment of maturity and growth. Thor is no longer just the impulsive warrior who fought to be crowned king. He is now taking on the mantle of a leader who understands the necessity of difficult decisions for the greater good. Loki's role in the story also contributes to the theme of sacrifice, albeit in a more complicated and less clear-cut way. Throughout the film, Loki, who has been imprisoned for his crimes, is offered a chance at redemption, but only through his alliance with Thor. Although Loki has betrayed Thor in the past, the two brothers find themselves forced to work together to stop Malekith and prevent the destruction of the Nine Realms. Loki's willingness to cooperate with Thor, despite their tumultuous history, shows a shift in his character. While Loki's motivations remain selfish at times, there are moments when his actions indicate that he might be making sacrifices for a greater cause. The act of trusting one another and putting aside past betrayals becomes a form of sacrifice for both brothers. Thor sacrifices his personal mistrust of Loki for the sake of defeating a larger enemy. And in turn, Loki sacrifices his personal desires for the possibility of redemption, even if his true intentions remain clouded. Perhaps the greatest sacrifice in Thor, The Dark World, is the one made by Thor himself. As the final battle against Malekith approaches, Thor realizes that the only way to stop the ether from consuming Jane and allowing Malekith to destroy the Nine Realms is to use the force of the realms themselves. This decision requires Thor to make an incredibly difficult choice, not just in terms of physical sacrifice, but in the emotional toll it takes. Thor is faced with the possibility of losing everything, from Jane to the very safety of Asgard, in order to defeat Malekith. In this moment, Thor demonstrates the ultimate understanding of what it means to be a hero, the willingness to sacrifice everything for the greater good. Thor's actions at the climax of the film, using the power of the realms and the ether to defeat Malekith, demonstrate the ultimate expression of sacrifice. He places himself in grave danger to ensure that the Nine Realms are safe, knowing full well that he may never see Jane again, or that the consequences of his actions could lead to the fall of Asgard. The emotional toll of this sacrifice is felt in his final moments with Jane, where he must leave her behind, knowing that their love might never be fully realized due to the demands of his role as protector. Despite the intense emotional cost, Thor's decision to safeguard the Nine Realms represents his full realization of the burden of leadership. The hero's journey in this case is not about gaining power or glory, it is about learning to give up the things that matter most to protect others. The film's resolution, which sees Thor returning to Asgard to take on his royal responsibilities, highlights the emotional growth and sacrifices he has made. While the battle against Malekith has been won, Thor understands that the cost of victory has been steep. The film's closing moments, which show Thor stepping into his role as a ruler, demonstrate that heroism is not just about physical strength, it is about the internal strength to make difficult decisions and sacrifices. Thor has grown from a brash young warrior into a thoughtful leader, capable of facing the emotional and moral complexities of his position. In Thor, The Dark World, sacrifice is not just a theme, but the emotional core of the film. Thor's journey is one of painful choices, where the pursuit of justice and the protection of the Nine Realms come at the expense of his personal desires. Through his sacrifices, Thor matures, showing that the essence of heroism lies in the willingness to give up one's own happiness for the greater good. This journey from selfishness to selflessness is what ultimately makes Thor a true hero. Loki's role in Thor, The Dark World, is both complex and pivotal, marking a significant shift in his character arc. Known primarily for his villainous deeds in the Avengers, Loki's actions in Thor, The Dark World blur the lines between ally and antagonist, showcasing the complexities of his relationship with Thor and Asgard. As the plot unfolds, Loki's unexpected involvement in the battle against Malekith and the Dark Elves reveals the depth of his character, and adds layers of emotional tension and dramatic irony to the narrative. When Thor is confronted with the formidable threat of Malekith, he realizes that despite his strength and determination, he cannot stop the Dark Elves alone. This is where Loki enters the picture. Still imprisoned in Asgard for his crimes, Loki is initially positioned as an antagonist, still reeling from his previous actions and betrayal of his family. He remains a symbol of chaos, mistrust, and manipulation. However, with the looming threat of universal destruction, Thor reluctantly decides to seek Loki's help. His decision is driven not by hope or trust, but by necessity. Thor understands that only Loki's cunning and mastery of deception might be enough to defeat Malekith. Loki's initial reaction to Thor's request is one of sharp wit and sardonic humor. True to his character, he mocks Thor's desperation and highlights the absurdity of their situation. Thor, the mighty Asgardian prince, has to turn to his villainous brother for help. Their tense relationship is palpably felt in these early moments. Thor and Loki have always been rivals, with Thor serving as the idealized, golden son of Odin and Loki, as the overlooked, bitter brother who constantly seeks validation. Their rivalry, fueled by jealousy, resentment, and the deep-rooted dynamics of family, makes the prospect of working together seem almost impossible. Yet, as the story progresses, Loki's role transforms from one of simple villainy to a much more nuanced and morally ambiguous position. Loki's motives for helping Thor are far from altruistic. While Thor believes that Loki might genuinely want to redeem himself, Loki's intentions remain far murkier. Loki is never entirely upfront about his true reasons for assisting Thor, and his actions throughout the film suggest that he may simply be playing his own game. His manipulations while helping Thor in the short term are always infused with a sense of self-interest. Loki uses his intelligence, charm, and trickery to navigate the dangerous situations that arise, often putting himself in a position where he can control the narrative to his advantage. He isn't just helping Thor out of any sense of brotherly love. He is calculating, always seeking an opportunity to gain power and leverage for his own purposes. As the plot unfolds, Loki's role becomes even more critical. His expertise in illusion, deception, and subterfuge makes him an invaluable asset to Thor. The brothers team up to thwart Malekith's plans, but Loki's dark and manipulative tendencies make every step of their alliance precarious. One of the key turning points in the film occurs when Loki reveals his true intentions in a moment of apparent sacrifice. After assisting Thor in the battle against Malekith, Loki seemingly sacrifices himself for the greater good, allowing Thor to defeat the Dark Elves and prevent the destruction of the Nine Realms. This act appears to be a moment of redemption for Loki, where he chooses his brother and the greater good over his own selfish desires. However, in true Loki fashion, his actions are not what they seem. After what appears to be his death, it is revealed that Loki has faked his own demise and taken the throne of Asgard for himself, deceiving both Thor and Odin. His decision to claim the throne of Asgard speaks to his insatiable hunger for power and recognition, which has always been the driving force behind his actions. Loki's deception is both a heartbreaking betrayal and a reflection of his deep-seated need for approval. Throughout the film, Loki reveals glimpses of vulnerability, particularly in his interactions with Thor, but his ultimate choices demonstrate that his desire for power and control remains unshaken. Loki's actions, while helping Thor in the short term, ultimately highlight his inability to truly change, and his motivations continue to be rooted in self-interest. The emotional complexity of Loki's character is evident throughout the film, particularly in his interactions with Thor. While Thor and Loki's relationship is fraught with tension, there are moments of genuine connection that suggest a possibility of reconciliation. These moments, however, are fleeting. Loki's betrayal at the end of the film reveals the depths of his emotional conflict. He desires to be loved and respected, but his actions betray this desire. His final actions as king of Asgard, taking the throne while impersonating Odin, highlight his tragic flaw, his belief that the only way to gain validation is through power. Despite the brief alliance between the brothers, Loki's need for dominance prevents him from ever fully embracing redemption. He is forever caught in a cycle of destruction and manipulation, unable to break free from his self-imposed role as an antagonist. The film uses Loki's character arc to explore deeper themes of identity, self-worth, and the nature of family. While Thor's journey is about accepting his responsibilities as a leader and protector of the Nine Realms, Loki's journey is one of constant self-doubt and insecurity. He is a character who constantly questions his worth and seeks validation, yet his actions often push him further from the love and approval he craves. His deception and ultimate betrayal serve as a reminder that redemption is not always a linear journey, and that the battle between light and darkness exists even within the most complex of characters. Loki's role in Thor. The Dark World is crucial not just for the plot, but for the emotional dynamics of the film. His interactions with Thor provide a mirror for the themes of sacrifice, trust, and family. Despite his betrayal, Loki's involvement in the battle against Malekith adds emotional weight to the film, as it forces Thor to confront the possibility of reconciliation with his brother, even if that reconciliation is short-lived. Loki's character is defined by his struggle for recognition and control, and his actions in the film remind us that true heroism and villainy are not always clear-cut. Loki remains a character of contradictions, constantly torn between his desire for power and his need for love. The final battle in Thor. The Dark World serves as the culmination of the emotional and physical struggles that Thor, Jane, and the inhabitants of Asgard face. It's a battle not only for survival, but for the very future of the Nine Realms. The stakes are monumental, as Malekith, with the power of the ether, seeks to use the convergence of the Nine Realms to reshape the universe in his own image, plunging it into eternal darkness. For Thor, this battle is both a personal and cosmic one. He must not only protect Jane and stop Malekith's plan, but also reconcile his role as a hero and a leader. The film's climax presents a visually stunning, emotionally charged confrontation that tests Thor's loyalty, his strength, and his willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice. At the heart of this final conflict is the convergence, an extraordinary cosmic event that aligns the Nine Realms, causing them to briefly intersect. During the convergence, the boundaries between realms grow thin, allowing powerful forces like the ether to cause unimaginable destruction. For Malekith, this is the moment to unleash the full potential of the ether and reshape the universe as he sees fit. His ultimate goal is not just to destroy the Nine Realms, but to recreate them in a state of eternal darkness where he can reign supreme over a world void of light and hope. Malekith, driven by vengeance and a twisted sense of duty to his people, is relentless in his pursuit of this power, and as the convergence approaches, he becomes more desperate and dangerous. Thor, fully aware of the destructive consequences that will occur if Malekith succeeds, faces the enormous task of stopping him. However, Thor cannot do this alone. His journey throughout the Dark World has been marked by collaboration with those he trusts, his allies in Asgard, Jane, and even his brother Loki. The alliances forged in the earlier parts of the film come to fruition in the final battle, where Thor relies on the help of his family, despite the mistrust and bitterness that exists, particularly with Loki. Together, they face the cosmic chaos that the convergence brings, understanding that the fate of the Nine Realms hangs in the balance. As the battle between Thor and Malekith unfolds, the scale of destruction is unparalleled. The visual spectacle of the fight is heightened by the shifting realms, as buildings and entire landscapes collide in a dizzying mix of destruction and chaos. The battle itself is not only a fight for survival but a contest of wills, with Malekith's obsession with vengeance driving him to harness the full power of the Aether, and Thor's determination to protect the people he loves pushing him to the limits of his strength and resolve. The destruction of Asgard's streets and buildings reflects the enormity of the stakes at hand, where nothing, not even the strongest of gods, is immune from the consequences of unchecked power. Throughout the battle, Thor's character is put to the test. He is forced to confront his own vulnerabilities, both physically and emotionally. At one point, he is nearly overwhelmed by the Aether's power, and his struggle is not just against Malekith, but against the overwhelming force that threatens to consume everything. His emotional growth throughout the film, His increasing maturity as a leader and his acceptance of his responsibilities comes to the forefront as he finds the strength to overcome not just his enemies, but his own doubts. The battle becomes a moment of personal triumph for Thor as he steps fully into his role as protector of the Nine Realms, no longer the brash, impulsive warrior he once was, but a hero who understands the weight of his actions and their consequences. One of the most intense and pivotal moments in the battle occurs when Thor must make a decision that will ultimately save Jane and the Nine Realms. The ether, which has been embedded within Jane, is the key to stopping Malekith's plan, but its power is also a source of immense danger. Thor must make the agonizing choice to use the power of the ether to defeat Malekith, even though doing so could cost Jane her life. In this moment, Thor's love for Jane and his duty to the universe collide, and he must make a sacrifice that echoes the larger theme of the film, that heroism is not just about saving the day, but about making difficult decisions, and sometimes losing what matters most. Thor's emotional connection to Jane adds depth to the final battle. His desire to protect her from the ether's deadly influence mirrors his overarching role as a protector of the Nine Realms. He is, after all, not just a warrior. He is a leader who must make choices that are not always aligned with his personal desires. Thor's determination to stop Malekith, even at the risk of losing Jane, shows that his growth as a character extends beyond the physical realm of battle. He has evolved into a leader who understands that personal sacrifice is sometimes necessary for the greater good. At the same time, Loki's role in the final battle is integral to the overall success of the mission, despite his own selfish motivations. Loki's contribution to the fight, while somewhat self-serving, shows his complexity as a character. He is not entirely redeemed, but he begins to show hints of genuine care for his brother and the people of Asgard. His willingness to help Thor, even if it's only in a temporary alliance, adds a layer of nuance to his character. Loki's cleverness and strategic thinking allow Thor to use the chaotic shifting of the realms to his advantage, but Loki's betrayal at the end, taking the throne of Asgard for himself, reminds the audience that redemption for Loki is an ongoing and complex journey. In the final moments of the battle, Thor and Malekith face off in a surreal and intense sequence, where the Nine Realms are aligned, and the power of the ether threatens to tear apart the fabric of reality itself. Thor, having been tested physically, emotionally, and morally, finds a way to turn the tide of the battle. He uses the ether's power to destroy Malekith, sealing the fate of the Nine Realms and preventing the utter annihilation that Malekith had planned. However, this victory comes at a personal cost, as Thor is forced to leave Jane behind, understanding that his duties as a protector are far-reaching and that love alone cannot save the universe. The final battle in Thor. The Dark World is a powerful culmination of Thor's journey of growth, sacrifice, and heroism. It encapsulates the complex interplay between personal desires and cosmic responsibilities, illustrating the heart of the film's narrative. As Thor emerges victorious, he also learns that true leadership involves not only defeating external threats, but confronting the emotional costs that come with protecting the universe. His growth as a hero is marked by his willingness to sacrifice, not just for the Nine Realms, but for the people he loves. The aftermath of the final battle in Thor, The Dark World, is a moment of reflection, not just for Thor, but for all the characters involved. While the immediate threat of Malekith and the Dark Elves is vanquished, the victory comes at a significant emotional and personal cost, and the consequences of the battle ripple across the Nine Realms and the relationships between the characters. As Thor returns to Asgard, the toll of the events is evident in the way he must navigate the complexities of his duties as both a prince and a protector, and in his strained relationship with both his father, Odin, and his brother, Loki. One of the first things that Thor must come to terms with in the aftermath of the battle is the sacrifice he made to ensure the safety of the Nine Realms. Thor's victory over Malekith did not come without profound personal loss. Throughout Thor: The Dark World, Thor has been torn between his love for Jane and his responsibility to Asgard and the greater universe. The final moments of the battle required him to make the painful decision to leave Jane behind, knowing that the safety of the Nine Realms, indeed, the very future of the universe, depended on him making this sacrifice. The cost of this victory is immense, as Thor's heart is left heavy with the knowledge that his love for Jane, while deep and genuine, may never be realized. Thor's sacrifice also extends to his relationship with Asgard. While Thor successfully defends the Nine Realms, his actions throughout the film underscore a central conflict he faces as a leader. Throughout Thor: The Dark World, he learns that leadership is not just about wielding strength or defeating enemies. It is about making difficult choices that prioritize the greater good, even if those choices mean personal loss. Thor's decision to leave Jane behind is a reflection of his growing understanding of his responsibilities. The film explores the theme of leadership as a form of service, where the individual's desires are often overshadowed by the duty to protect others. Upon returning to Asgard, Thor is faced with the weight of his decisions. The victory over Malekith is not celebrated as a simple triumph, but as the culmination of a long journey of growth, sacrifice, and emotional turmoil. The film's focus on the aftermath shifts the narrative from pure action and spectacle to introspection and reconciliation. Thor, who has always been the impulsive, brash hero, must now face the consequences of his actions in a more profound way. This is particularly evident in his relationship with his father, Odin. Throughout Thor: The Dark World, Thor has struggled with his complicated relationship with Odin. Odin, who raised Thor and shaped him into the leader he is today, has always been a figure of authority and guidance. Yet, their relationship is one of constant tension, with Thor feeling that Odin often overburdens him with expectations that limit his freedom and individuality. In the aftermath of the battle, Thor's return to Asgard reveals the deep-seated rift between father and son. Odin's response to Thor's victory is not one of celebration, but of a reluctant acknowledgement of Thor's increasing maturity and ability to shoulder the burdens of leadership. Thor's emotional state is further complicated by his understanding that he has surpassed Odin in many ways. The battle with Malekith and the way Thor navigated his personal sacrifices and responsibilities have proven that he is ready to take on more than just a warrior's role. While Odin remains the king of Asgard, Thor's growth as a hero and a leader is undeniable. This realization, however, does not bring peace between them. Instead, it further underscores the tension between the two characters. Odin, while proud of Thor's victory, still expects him to accept the throne and embrace the weight of leadership that comes with it. Thor, on the other hand, recognizes that his responsibilities extend beyond Asgard, and that his role as protector of the Nine Realms requires a different approach. This emotional conflict is compounded by the presence of Loki. At the conclusion of the film, Thor faces yet another difficult decision regarding his brother. Loki, who has aided Thor in the battle against Malekith, is still a deeply conflicted character. His deception, faking his death to seize the throne of Asgard, adds layers of complexity to their relationship. Thor, despite the betrayal, must now navigate the delicate balance of dealing with a brother who is both a potential ally and a constant source of instability. Loki's actions highlight his unrelenting desire for power and recognition, and while his moments of vulnerability suggest a capacity for change, it is clear that Loki's path remains one of self-interest and manipulation. Loki's role in the aftermath of the battle is one of both tragedy and opportunity. While Thor has emerged victorious, the future of Asgard remains uncertain. Loki's unexpected rise to power, having deceived both Thor and Odin, signals that the tension between the brothers is far from over. Loki's ability to impersonate Odin and take the throne suggests that his manipulations are far from finished, and it leaves Thor in a difficult position. He has learned that even in victory, there are no simple solutions. The emotional complexity of their relationship is highlighted in the final moments of the film, where Thor must return to Asgard, not as a triumphant hero, but as a leader who is still grappling with the aftermath of the battle. Despite the personal losses, Thor's journey in Thor: The Dark World marks a turning point in his character development. The film is not just about defeating a villain, it is about confronting the emotional toll of being a hero. The sacrifices Thor makes, particularly in his relationships with Jane, Odin, and Loki, showcase his growth as a leader. As the film concludes, Thor is faced with the realization that his destiny lies not only in fighting battles, but in understanding the complexities of his role as protector. The aftermath of the battle does not offer immediate relief, but it sets the stage for Thor's evolution into a leader capable of making tough choices for the greater good. In the final moments of the film, Thor's decision to return to Asgard rather than stay on Earth with Jane symbolizes the acceptance of his duties. His journey has come full circle, from the impulsive, arrogant prince in the first Thor film to the responsible and self-sacrificing hero in The Dark World. The film concludes with a sense of unfinished business, particularly regarding his relationships with his family and the ongoing tension with Loki. Thor has learned that leadership is not just about winning battles, it is about navigating personal loss and understanding that sacrifice is sometimes necessary for the survival of all. His growth as a character sets the stage for his future role in the MCU, where the emotional costs of his journey will continue to shape him. In Thor: The Dark World, one of the central themes is the importance of family and legacy, how the past influences the present, and how the bonds between family members shape the decisions we make. As Thor returns to Asgard and faces the aftermath of the battle against Malekith, he must come to terms with his responsibilities as both a son and a future leader. The film not only explores Thor's relationships with his father, Odin, and his brother, Loki, but it also deepens our understanding of how the legacy of Asgard and the gods affects the characters' paths. Through the lens of family dynamics and the weight of legacy, Thor: The Dark World highlights how the choices we make, the expectations placed upon us, and our relationships with those we love, and sometimes resent, shape our destiny. From the start of the film, Thor is grappling with his position as both a warrior and a potential ruler. As the battle for the Nine Realms rages on, Thor's heroic deeds in the field are overshadowed by his relationship with his father, Odin. While Thor has proven himself a capable and powerful hero, Odin continues to impose expectations on him, particularly regarding his future as the king of Asgard. This tension between father and son has always been central to Thor's character. In the first Thor film, Thor's impulsiveness and his desire to prove himself led to a strained relationship with Odin. But by the time of The Dark World, Thor has matured and learned the weight of leadership. Yet, even with this growth, Odin's constant need for control over Thor's fate still looms over him. Odin's belief that Thor must eventually take the throne is not merely about legacy, it is about the need for stability in Asgard. Odin wants his son to be the leader he believes Asgard needs, not the one Thor feels he is destined to be. Odin's relationship with Thor is further complicated by the legacy of Thor's mother, Frigga. While Frigga's passing early in the film leaves an emotional void, it also serves as a catalyst for Thor's realization of the importance of family and sacrifice. Thor's relationship with his mother was one marked by understanding and warmth, and her death is not only a loss for Asgard, but a deep personal loss for Thor. Her absence forces Thor to confront the legacy of his family, particularly as it pertains to his role as the protector of the Nine Realms. Thor's journey in the Dark World involves stepping into the role that his mother had long fulfilled, serving as a protector who values the bonds of family while also recognizing the sacrifices that must be made for the greater good. Her death reminds him that leadership is not just about wielding power. It is about making difficult decisions, often at great personal cost. In the face of this loss, Thor's decision to work with Loki represents a dramatic shift in his understanding of family. Loki, still imprisoned in Asgard after his actions in the Avengers, has always been the source of conflict within the royal family. As Thor faces the rising threat of Malekith and the Dark Elves, he realizes that in order to protect Asgard and the Nine Realms, he must put aside his mistrust of Loki and form an uneasy alliance with his brother. This decision is not made lightly, as the brothers' history is fraught with betrayal, lies, and conflict. Loki's betrayal of Thor in the past still lingers, and Thor's deep love for his brother is tempered by a painful understanding of Loki's capacity for deception and manipulation. However, the nature of their family dynamic is shifting, and Thor's decision to work with Loki signals a moment of emotional maturity for him. By the end of the film, Thor learns that loyalty and trust in family are complicated but essential, and that sometimes redemption is not found in complete forgiveness, but in the willingness to stand together in the face of greater threats. Loki's involvement in the film also provides a deeper exploration of family dynamics. While Thor and Loki are brothers, their bond has always been strained. Thor was raised as the rightful heir to Asgard, while Loki was the adopted son, something that created deep feelings of resentment and abandonment within Loki. The question of identity and belonging is central to Loki's character arc. He often finds himself caught between his desire for recognition and power, and his deep-seated insecurity about his place in the family. The film explores how Loki's need for approval from Odin, coupled with his feelings of betrayal, shapes his every action. His desire for the throne of Asgard and his manipulative tactics are not just about power, but about a need to be seen as worthy in the eyes of his family. Thor's interactions with Loki throughout the Dark World bring these family tensions to the forefront. When Thor is forced to rely on Loki's cunning and intelligence to stop Malekith, their fractured relationship is tested. Loki's motives remain unclear, and Thor cannot fully trust his brother, but he is willing to put aside past grievances for the sake of the Nine Realms. In return, Loki proves to be an invaluable ally, using his knowledge of deception and illusion to help Thor out of precarious situations. However, despite these moments of cooperation, Loki's betrayal is never far from Thor's mind. In the end, Loki's decision to seize the throne of Asgard, after seemingly sacrificing himself to aid Thor, reveals that Loki remains a character who is always driven by self-interest, even if moments of vulnerability suggest a longing for something more. The final moments of the film underscore the complexity of family legacy and the role of leadership. Thor's decision to return to Asgard and resume his position as a prince, not yet fully embracing the throne, but acknowledging his future role as king, signals the beginning of a new chapter for both him and his family. His growth as a leader, marked by the emotional and physical sacrifices he made throughout the film, prepares him for the challenges that lie ahead, not just in Asgard, but in the larger universe. Thor's future as king of Asgard is still uncertain, as his relationship with Loki and Odin continues to evolve, but he is now more prepared to handle the complexities of leadership, knowing that the greatest sacrifices are often those made for the good of others. The theme of family is explored in Thor, the Dark World, not just as a bloodline or a political institution, but as a dynamic force that shapes the characters, actions, and choices. The legacies of Odin, Frigga, and the Asgardian rulers loom large in the story, as Thor is forced to confront his place within this family and his responsibility to continue their legacy. In his relationship with Loki, Thor learns that family is not always about unconditional love or unshakable trust. It is also about understanding the complexities of who we are and how we are shaped by our past. Thor, the Dark World, emphasizes that family, both biological and chosen, is the bedrock of identity and purpose, and that the power of legacy is what ultimately drives the characters to become who they are meant to be. In Thor, the Dark World, The concept of legacy looms large, particularly in terms of Asgard's place in the Nine Realms and its future under Thor's eventual leadership. As the events of the film unfold, Thor is faced with the weight of his family's legacy, the responsibilities it carries, and the sacrifices that must be made for the survival and prosperity of Asgard. Throughout the film, Thor learns that legacy is not merely about maintaining the power and glory of the past, but about adapting to the challenges of the present and making choices that will shape the future. The legacy of Asgard, and the legacy of Thor's own personal journey, comes into sharp focus as he grapples with what it means to be a protector, a son, and a leader. The film begins by highlighting Asgard's glorious history. Asgard is portrayed not only as a mighty kingdom, but as the seat of divine power, with its beautiful architecture and rich traditions standing as a testament to its ruler's strength. However, Thor, the dark world, quickly establishes that this legacy is fragile and constantly under threat. The opening scenes depict the ancient war between the Asgardians and the Dark Elves, which ended in the defeat of Malekith and his forces. This conflict, though centuries old, directly influences the present, as it is the root cause of the turmoil that Thor and his allies now face. The destruction of Malekith's people and the decision to hide the ether, the source of his power, was meant to preserve Asgard's reign and maintain peace. However, in doing so, the Asgardians inadvertently left the door open for future conflicts. The actions of the past, particularly the decision to isolate the ether, create ripples that come to the surface in the current struggle, reminding Thor and his people that legacy is not just about preserving power, but also about recognizing the consequences of past actions. Thor's journey in the Dark World is one of coming to terms with his role as the future king of Asgard. Throughout the film, Thor is burdened by the weight of his father Odin's expectations and the long-standing tradition of Asgardian rulers. Odin, as a father and king, holds a deep belief in the importance of legacy and the protection of Asgard's future. He views Thor as the heir to the throne, but he also sees the need to shape Thor into a ruler who will maintain the power and stability of Asgard. However, the Dark World presents Thor as a character who is no longer simply concerned with wielding power for its own sake, but rather with understanding the moral and emotional cost of leadership. Thor's desire to protect the Nine Realms, especially Earth, conflicts with his duties to Asgard. And it is in the midst of this internal struggle that he begins to realize that true leadership lies not in simply following the legacy of the past, but in charting a new course for the future. The tension between Thor's desire to protect Asgard and his love for Earth is one of the key emotional struggles of the film. Thor's relationship with Jane Foster highlights this conflict. Jane represents Thor's connection to Earth, a world he has come to love and cherish, but it is also a world that exists outside the bounds of Asgardian rule. While Thor is deeply in love with Jane, he is also faced with the reality that his duty as a future king demands sacrifices, even in matters of the heart. When he chooses to leave Jane behind in order to confront Malekith, Thor is making a painful but necessary decision in service of the greater good. In doing so, he realizes that leadership is about more than simply making sacrifices for duty. It is about finding a way to reconcile the needs of different realms, balancing personal desires with the larger responsibilities of a ruler. The legacy of Odin, Thor's father, is another crucial aspect of Thor's journey. Odin's rule has shaped Asgard's place in the Nine Realms, and his wisdom and authority are central to maintaining the kingdom's power. However, Odin's desire to control and dictate the future of Asgard sometimes conflicts with Thor's evolving understanding of leadership. While Odin remains steadfast in his belief that Asgard's future should follow the traditions and expectations of the past, Thor begins to see that change is necessary. The film presents Thor with the challenge of reconciling his love and respect for his father with his growing awareness that the future of Asgard may require a new approach. Thor's journey is not only one of external battles against Malekith, but also one of internal growth, as he learns that leadership is not just about following in the footsteps of past kings, but also about forging a new path forward. Another significant aspect of the legacy of Asgard is the role of Loki, Thor's adopted brother. Loki's relationship with Asgard is defined by feelings of rejection, resentment, and jealousy. Throughout the film, Loki is presented as a character who seeks to prove his worth, not only to his father Odin, but also to himself. His actions, first as a villain in the Avengers, and later as an uneasy ally to Thor, highlight the destructive nature of a legacy that excludes him and undervalues his contributions. Loki's desire for power and recognition comes from his feeling of being an outsider in his own family. Yet, in the course of Thor, the Dark World, Loki's actions reveal a more complicated relationship with his legacy. While he still craves power, his involvement in the battle against Malekith shows that he is capable of sacrifice, and at least temporarily, working alongside Thor for the greater good. Loki's complex relationship with his legacy underscores the film's broader theme that legacy is not only about birthright or inheritance, but about the choices made by each individual. Loki, despite his dark past, still has the potential to reshape his legacy, though whether he can fully embrace redemption remains uncertain. The film's resolution highlights the theme of legacy and leadership as Thor returns to Asgard, not as a triumphant hero, but as a more mature and thoughtful individual. Although he has defeated Malekith and prevented the destruction of the Nine Realms, Thor understands that the real battle lies in how he will move forward as the future ruler of Asgard. His decision to remain in Asgard and continue serving his people is a step toward embracing his responsibilities as a leader, even as he wrestles with the sacrifices that come with this role. Thor's acceptance of his legacy is not about inheriting power from his father, but about forging his own path as a protector of both Asgard and the Nine Realms. The legacy of Asgard in this sense is not a static entity but a living, evolving force that must adapt to the changing needs of the universe. In Thor, the Dark World, the legacy of Asgard serves as both a burden and a source of strength. Thor's journey to understand his role within this legacy is one of self-discovery and growth. The relationships between Thor, Odin, and Loki, as well as Thor's eventual acceptance of his future role, reflect the complexities of family, duty, and leadership. The legacy of Asgard is not just about maintaining power, it is about making difficult choices, confronting personal conflicts, and embracing the responsibility that comes with ruling a kingdom. As Thor steps into his role as the future king, the legacy of Asgard becomes not just a reflection of the past, but a dynamic force that will shape the future of the Nine Realms. As Thor, the Dark World draws to a close, the film leaves both its characters and its audience with a sense of unresolved tension. The battle against Malekith and the Dark Elves has been fought and won, but the consequences of the conflict reverberate far beyond the immediate victory. The final moments of the film, while providing a resolution to the main conflict, also open the door to future uncertainties and unresolved questions, particularly in regard to Thor's relationships with his family and the ongoing evolution of his role as a leader. One of the film's central unresolved themes is the relationship between Thor and Loki. While Thor has come to accept Loki as a temporary ally in the battle against Malekith, the emotional weight of their past remains heavy. Loki's manipulation and betrayal throughout the Avengers has left a permanent scar on their relationship, and Thor, despite his recent willingness to work alongside his brother, still struggles with the trust issues that have defined their history. The emotional complexity of this relationship is highlighted in the film's conclusion, where Thor is forced to confront the truth about Loki's character. After what seems to be Loki's self-sacrifice during the final battle, Thor believes that his brother has chosen the side of good, but the shocking twist, when Loki is revealed to have faked his death and taken the throne of Asgard by impersonating Odin, reveals that Loki remains as manipulative and self-serving as ever. This revelation leaves Thor in a position where he must again grapple with his feelings for Loki, as well as the bitter reality that his brother has once again chosen power over familial loyalty. Loki's decision to take the throne of Asgard in Odin's absence introduces several important questions that linger at the film's end. Is Loki simply seeking vengeance for his perceived neglect by Odin, or does he genuinely believe that he is the rightful ruler of Asgard? His actions, while driven by personal ambition, also suggest a deep-seated insecurity and yearning for approval. Loki has always been defined by his feelings of inadequacy, his desire to be seen as worthy in the eyes of his family, particularly his father. His assumption of Odin's role at the film's conclusion signals that Loki's journey is far from complete. Rather than a redemptive moment, this twist serves as a reminder that Loki remains a character driven by his own agenda, unwilling or unable to fully embrace the possibility of redemption. The ambiguity of Loki's motivations, whether he is truly seeking power for himself or simply responding to years of rejection, leaves his future in the MCU uncertain and sets up future conflicts for Thor and Asgard. Thor's personal journey is also left open-ended, particularly in terms of his relationship with Jane Foster. Throughout the film, Thor is torn between his duty as a prince and his love for Jane. In the final moments of the battle, Thor is faced with the painful decision to leave Jane behind, knowing that the safety of the Nine Realms requires his full attention. However, as the film concludes, Thor's love for Jane remains unresolved. His return to Asgard, while symbolizing his growing acceptance of his role as protector and future king, also signals the personal sacrifices that come with that role. While Thor's decision to put the Nine Realms above his personal desires reflects his maturity and growth as a leader, it also leaves him emotionally conflicted. Thor has always been portrayed as someone whose heart is deeply connected to those he loves, and his decision to remain in Asgard despite his yearning to be with Jane is a reflection of the difficult choices that leadership requires. The unresolved nature of Thor and Jane's relationship, though not fully addressed in Thor: The Dark World, creates a sense of longing and emotional depth that resonates beyond the film. At a broader level, the film also leaves unresolved questions about the future of Asgard and the Nine Realms. While Thor has emerged victorious and secured the safety of the Nine Realms from Malekith's destructive plan, the political landscape of Asgard is left in flux. Odin's leadership is called into question with Loki's deception and the uncertainty of the future. Thor, as the future king, must now navigate the delicate balance between maintaining the power of Asgard and ensuring the safety of the realms under his watch. The film presents Thor with a moment of reflection on what it means to be a king, on the need to reconcile his personal desires with the responsibilities of leadership. His willingness to remain in Asgard, despite his emotional struggles, signals his acceptance of his future role, but it also hints at the difficulty of that path. The unresolved questions surrounding the fate of Asgard and its leadership are compounded by the larger cosmic stakes introduced in Thor: The Dark World. The Ether, an ancient and powerful force, was shown to be an incredibly dangerous weapon, capable of altering the fabric of reality. While Malekith's defeat has neutralized the immediate threat of the Ether, its continued existence remains a concern for Thor and the other realms. The film ends with the Ether being taken to the Collector, a mysterious figure whose connection to the larger MCU remains unexplored. The Ether's potential for destruction has not been fully realized, and the fate of this powerful force remains an unresolved element that hints at future conflicts in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The inclusion of the Collector at the end of the film suggests that the Ether could play a significant role in future MCU films, particularly as part of the ongoing storyline surrounding the Infinity Stones. In addition to the unresolved questions about Loki, Jane, and Asgard, Thor: The Dark World also leaves lingering themes about the nature of heroism and leadership. Thor's journey throughout the film is one of self-discovery, where he must reconcile his personal desires with his larger responsibilities as a future king and protector. The final moments of the film, where Thor returns to Asgard and reflects on his journey, highlight the importance of sacrifice, growth, and the weight of leadership. While he has proven himself a capable hero, Thor's journey is far from over. The legacy of Asgard, the complex dynamics with his family, and the challenges of leading the Nine Realms all point to the fact that Thor's path will be one marked by continuous growth, difficult choices, and the ever-present tension between duty and personal desire. The unanswered questions at the end of Thor: The Dark World are a reflection of the larger narrative arc that the film sets in motion. While the immediate threat of Malekith is vanquished, the lingering uncertainties about Loki's intentions, the fate of Asgard, and the future of Thor's relationships create a sense of anticipation for what is to come. The film may conclude, but its unresolved threads provide a rich foundation for the next chapter in Thor's journey, leaving audiences eagerly awaiting what lies ahead for both the character and the larger universe. Thor: The Dark World is an essential entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, not just for its action and spectacle, but for its expanse of deeper themes, emotional arcs, and its impact on the larger MCU narrative. The film does more than just continue Thor's journey. It adds complexity to his character and sets the stage for pivotal developments in both his story and the overarching MCU. With themes of sacrifice, leadership, family, and legacy at its core, Thor: The Dark World weaves important narrative threads that will resonate through future films, shaping Thor's evolution as a hero and a leader within the MCU. One of the key themes explored in Thor: The Dark World is the concept of sacrifice. From the very beginning of the film, Thor is tasked with making difficult choices, especially when it comes to balancing his love for Jane Foster with his responsibility as the protector of the Nine Realms. The emotional weight of sacrifice is felt throughout the movie, as Thor is faced with the reality that, in order to save his family, the universe, and the Nine Realms, he must make personal sacrifices. This theme reaches its apex in the final battle, when Thor must leave Jane behind to stop Malekith and the Dark Elves, even though it means risking the possibility of losing her forever. Thor's willingness to place the universe before his personal desires signals his growth as a leader and hero. The sacrifices Thor makes in the Dark World set a precedent for the MCU, where characters must often face the painful reality that heroism requires great personal cost. This theme will continue to play a crucial role in Thor's journey, particularly as the stakes rise in subsequent films. Another significant theme in Thor: The Dark World is the importance of family and the complex dynamics that shape our identities. The relationship between Thor and Loki is at the heart of the emotional conflict in the film. Although Loki is portrayed as a villain in the Avengers, Thor: The Dark World offers a more nuanced view of his character, exploring the emotional and psychological reasons behind his actions. Loki's desire for approval, his feelings of abandonment by Odin, and his jealousy of Thor create a web of emotional complexity that makes him a more sympathetic figure despite his misdeeds. Thor's internal struggle with his brother is central to the film's exploration of family dynamics. The eventual alliance between Thor and Loki, although brief, signals Thor's willingness to put aside past grievances for the greater good, even if it means trusting someone who has previously betrayed him. The film also delves into Thor's relationship with Odin, which remains strained despite their shared responsibility for Asgard's future. Thor's relationship with his father reflects the larger theme of legacy and what it means to inherit responsibility, as he grapples with living up to Odin's expectations while also forging his own path as a leader. Thor: The Dark World also addresses the theme of legacy and leadership, particularly in the context of Asgard and its royal family. Thor's journey in the film is about accepting his role as the future king of Asgard, not just as a warrior or hero, but as someone who must lead with wisdom, compassion, and sacrifice. As he faces the threat of the Dark Elves, Thor comes to realize that leadership is not about power or glory. It is about the ability to make difficult decisions for the greater good, even when those decisions come at a personal cost. This realization comes to the forefront when Thor chooses to remain in Asgard to protect the Nine Realms, understanding that the future of his people and his legacy as a leader depend on his ability to balance duty and desire. This theme will resonate in future MCU films, particularly as Thor continues to evolve as a leader, grappling with the weight of his responsibilities and the impact his choices have on those around him. In terms of its impact on the MCU, Thor: The Dark World plays a pivotal role in setting up the larger cosmic narrative that will unfold in future films. The introduction of the Ether, later revealed to be one of the Infinity Stones, is a key moment in the MCU's overarching storyline. The Aether's potential for destruction and its connection to the Infinity Stones foreshadows the larger conflict that will come to a head in Avengers: Infinity War. By introducing this powerful artifact, Thor: The Dark World lays the groundwork for the Infinity Saga, which will dominate the narrative of the MCU in the coming years. The film's conclusion, where the Aether is entrusted to the Collector, is an important moment that connects the individual stories of the MCU to the larger universe-spanning conflict that will unfold. The film also expands the cosmic side of the MCU, introducing new worlds, characters, and conflicts that will play a role in future films. The Nine Realms, once again at the forefront of the narrative, are shown to be interconnected, and the film's cosmic setting expands the scope of the MCU. The exploration of the Nine Realms, and the introduction of new characters like the Dark Elves and Malekith, adds depth to the universe and sets up new opportunities for storytelling in future films. Additionally, the presence of characters like the Collector hints at the interconnectedness of the MCU's cosmic stories, further establishing that Thor: The Dark World is an integral part of a larger interconnected universe. The themes of Thor: The Dark World also have a lasting impact on Thor's character development in the MCU. In this film, we see Thor grow from a brash and impulsive warrior into a more thoughtful and self-aware leader. His understanding of what it means to be a hero shifts as he learns that true leadership involves more than just strength. It requires wisdom, sacrifice, and the ability to make difficult decisions. Thor's journey toward maturity and acceptance of his responsibilities as the future king of Asgard sets the stage for his role in Avengers: Age of Ultron, and beyond. His emotional growth, particularly in his relationships with Jane, Odin, and Loki, will continue to shape his character in subsequent films, adding depth and complexity to his role in the MCU. One of the film's lasting impacts is its exploration of the complexities of heroism. Throughout Thor: The Dark World, Thor is forced to navigate the challenges of being both a hero and a leader. His personal desires, particularly his love for Jane, are often in conflict with his duties as a prince and a protector of the Nine Realms. The film underscores that heroism is not just about defeating villains. It's about making sacrifices, facing internal conflicts, and understanding the cost of one's actions. Thor's journey in this film is about accepting that being a hero means making difficult choices and sometimes losing what you hold dear. This theme will continue to resonate in future MCU films, where Thor, along with his fellow Avengers, faces even greater threats and challenges. Thor: The Dark World also marks an important moment in the ECU's evolution, as it continues to build on the shared universe and the interconnected stories that have become a hallmark of the franchise. The film seamlessly integrates into the larger MCU narrative, while also expanding on Thor's personal journey and the cosmic elements of the universe. As the EU progresses, the events of Thor: The Dark World will continue to echo, influencing the characters and the universe as a whole. The film's themes of sacrifice, family, legacy, and leadership will continue to resonate through the entire MCU as the heroes face new challenges and grow in response to the ever-evolving universe around them. Thor: The Dark World is an ambitious continuation of the Thor saga within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, blending cosmic battles with deeply personal stakes. Directed by Alan Taylor, the movie takes audiences on an emotional and action-packed journey that explores not just the strength of Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth, but his evolution as a hero, leader, and son. At its core, the film is about sacrifice. Thor's commitment to protecting the Nine Realms comes with a heavy personal cost, especially when his love for Jane Foster, Natalie Portman, is tested. The story picks up after the events of the Avengers, with Thor attempting to restore peace to the Nine Realms after the devastation caused by Loki. However, a new threat emerges in the form of the Dark Elves, led by the vengeful Malekith, Christopher Eccleston, who seeks to unleash a powerful force known as the Aether, and plunge the universe into eternal darkness. One of the strongest aspects of Thor: The Dark World, is its exploration of family dynamics. Thor's relationships with his father Odin, Anthony Hopkins, and his mischievous brother Loki, Tom Hiddleston, are central to the film's emotional weight. Thor's uneasy alliance with Loki to defeat Malekith is a powerful arc that challenges both brothers' sense of loyalty, redemption, and trust. While Thor's love for his family is evident, the movie also sheds light on the internal conflict he faces between fulfilling his royal duties and his emotional ties. The action scenes are grand and exciting, filled with stunning visuals and epic battles that take advantage of the film's cosmic setting. The special effects in the movie, particularly during the Convergence, a cosmic event where the Nine Realms briefly align, are visually striking and showcase the ambitious scale of the MCU's cosmic universe. The film balances these grand battles with quieter, more personal moments, as Thor contemplates his future as a ruler and the sacrifices that come with it. Loki remains a highlight of the film. Tom Hiddleston's portrayal of the conflicted anti-hero continues to captivate audiences. His complex relationship with Thor is one of the film's emotional anchors, as their interactions reveal both the love and the betrayal between them. The movie cleverly plays with Loki's mischievous nature, keeping viewers guessing about whether he can be trusted. On the downside, Malekith, the villain, feels somewhat underdeveloped. While Christopher Eccleston delivers a chilling performance, Malekith's motivations and backstory feel a bit lacking, making him a less compelling antagonist compared to the richness of other MCU villains. Despite this, the overarching plot and Thor's personal journey elevate the movie, ensuring that it still feels like a worthy installment in the MCU. The film also plays a key role in the larger MCU narrative, introducing one of the 6 Infinity Stones, the Ether, which will later be revealed as the Reality Stone in the MCU, and further expanding the cosmic side of the universe. The events of Thor: The Dark World have lasting consequences that will reverberate through future MCU films, especially in the context of the looming Infinity War. In conclusion, Thor: The Dark World is a film about growth, responsibility, and the cost of heroism. While it may not be as beloved as some other entries in the MCU, it serves as a crucial stepping stone for Thor's character development and the broader universe. It's a movie that offers a blend of action, humor, and emotion, all while setting the stage for the next phase of the MCU. Thank you so much for watching this review of Thor: The Dark World. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more movie reviews, analysis, and updates from the MCU. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the film. Did you enjoy Thor's journey in this movie? Or did you prefer his other appearances? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Until next time, keep enjoying the Marvel Universe, and I'll see you in the next one.